Are you a pre-med student and you're not sure what's the best major that's actually going to help you get into medical school? Then you're going to want to listen up and pay attention because I'm going to talk to you about everything that you need to know about choosing the best major that's going to advance your chances and help you get into medical school. And before we get started, there's one thing you guys need to know that pre-med is not a major. You do not go to college and major in pre-med. Instead, you take the courses that are required for admission to medical school. For instance, I was pre-med, however, I knew that I wanted to study something outside of the sciences, and I was actually a political science major. So I fulfilled all the requirements to meet my degree for political science. However, I then took additional courses that are required for medical school. So that meant first year of college, I was taking general chemistry, the full series sequence. And then, if you guys don't know, I actually went to Harvard for my other pre-med courses. I did biology at Harvard over the summer, and I also went back for organic chemistry over the summer at Northwestern. At Harvard. One of the reasons we did that, scoring, grading was easier at Harvard, believe it or not. So that was the other reason. And I guess there was even a financial component as well, where it was cheaper to take those courses at Harvard than at Northwestern. And I was the only Northwestern person did that. There was a lot of other pre-meds that did the same thing as well. However, Northwestern got wind of this and they weren't happy about it. And so after my classmates and us, and we've been doing this for students, have been doing this for years, Northwestern then instituted policy stating that people who majored in the sciences, so my biology friends, my chemistry friends that majored in the sciences, they were not allowed to go to other institutions to complete the core courses that they needed for their degree major. However, as a political science major, I didn't need any of those science courses from anywhere, so I could take those science courses anywhere I wanted. And so that's something that I did for myself. And when you're thinking about what you should major in as a pre-med, the biggest piece of advice, I'll tell you something that my father told me when I was actually in medical school and I was debating on, okay, what specialty do I want to go into? What type of doctor do I want to be in? And I was just all over. I had no clue, very indecisive, which is very rare for me because otherwise I'm very structured, goal oriented, and laser focused. But when it came to choosing medical specialty, no clue whatsoever. And so my father told me two things. He says, choose a specialty that you like or enjoy and that you're also good at. And that should be the same mentality that you have when you're thinking about your major for college. You want to choose something that you like and then also you're good at. And because you have a lot of freedom in your major, you want to do stuff, you want to follow those two things. Because if I'm an AdCom and I'm looking at applicants who are applying to medical school, I'm going to think that, okay, you choose this major, so I would expect you to excel in it, in your course of study, because it's your chosen course of study. So that's something that you definitely need to be aware of and make sure that you're doing it. And because it would be horrible, like, oh, you chose this course of study, but then you're like barely passing or you had to repeat courses in your major. That's not good. So you don't want to do that. And don't feel like you're obligated to major in the sciences or anything like that. You can major in whatever you want as long as you take the pre-med courses. However, I also had an advantage of majoring outside the sciences as a political science major. And so we know pre-med, you got your at the time I was using a TI 89 calculator, so that kind of dates myself. You guys would probably use a lot more advanced calculators now for what you're doing in your pre-med coursework, but that's what it was. So I was plugging and chugging numbers, doing all these equations, problem sets as required of being a science major, obviously reading a textbook, the PowerPoints, PDFs, and doing that. And then all that time spent preparing for lab, going to lab and doing the lab reports. So that's a lot of hard science that I was doing. But because my major was in the sciences, I was lucky where I could have a break because I can be like, okay, I'm tired of doing these problem sets. This is annoying. This is just too much right now. Let me go read something in political science because maybe I could be talking about the influence of money in US politics or organizing voters to get out to vote and some of the history behind that and just other nitty gritty things of politics, which for me it was like total like shift other side of the brain where it's like easy reading, like more historical and like narrative where there's like a story behind everything. So it was a great departure from doing the problems and everything like that. So I like that ability that I can kind of switch off and on from whatever topics reading I'm doing based on my mood. But obviously there's a time when you just need to focus and get the work done for your major, or if you have like one of those chemistry, physics tests, biology tests, obviously you can't be like, oh well, I'm bored of studying, let me go do political science, even though I don't have an exam or a paper due on that. So you can't, you just got to buckle down and do it. So I was aware and I knew there were times I had to just buckle down and do it. So there is that aspect of things. And you guys are probably wondering, so, what are the actual top majors that pre med students are choosing? Looking down because I have a list in front of me and trying to find it. I wrote an article that I put on the website that goes a lot more detail about the best majors for pre med students. But okay, I found what I'm looking for, and here we go. So, here are the top majors that the AAMC has the data on the pre-med students who are applying to medical school and what they're going into. And I have 7 on this list. So ranked. So the number one major that pre-meds have that applying to medical school is a major in the biological sciences. That's 57% of people who get admitted to medical school major in the biological sciences. So they're number one. Number two would be other, and that's 16% of pre-meds or other. So that could be anything there. And then number three would be the physical sciences. That's 9% of applicants. And then number four would be the social sciences, and that's 9% of applicants. And then number five would be the specialized health sciences. That would be 4% of applicants. And then number six would be the humanities, and that would be 4% of applicants. And rounding out the list, coming in last at number 7 would be math and statistics, and that would be 1% of applicants. I think that's kind of funny and ironic that math and statistics is like the lowest percent of people who apply to medical school, and kind of makes sense because I remember in medical school when my professor was like, oh, you guys are med students, you guys can't do math. And so that's what he would say. And a lot of, I guess, pre-meds, not huge on math. I actually kind of enjoy math because it is very accurate. You know whether you're getting it right or wrong, and so there's no leeway for interpretation. So I kind of enjoy a little bit of math here and then. I remember one time I was on my surgery rotation, so we're in between cases in the lounge, and I think one of the techs or somebody came in and they just posited a question to the room on something, and I heard it and I just did a calculation super fast in my head, spit out the answer. Everybody looked at me like, how'd you know that? How'd you get that so fast? I'm just like, I don't know. I enjoy math and I do math and I know how to do like shortcuts in my head, like rounding estimates and all of that to kind of get to the correct answer right away. So I guess I'm an anomaly in that regard of being at the time the medical student who could do math and had ease with it. Now, obviously, like higher order stuff, not going to be like my field of expertise. I can obviously work my way through it and things like that. So that's just a little tidbit on that. So the last thing that people have who are applying to medical school as a major would be math and statistics. But at the top of the list would be number one by biological sciences, followed by other. Number 3 is a physical sciences. Number 4 is a social sciences. And 5 is specialized health sciences. And 6 is humanities. And again, last would be math. So with all this is saying is, major in whatever you want and just make sure you do really well in your chosen course of study. And then we also have to say, okay, maybe there's a little bit of self-selection bias here where the biological sciences, that's what a lot of medicine is going to be. And so that's why those students choose to have that major because they're inherently interested in that. And obviously, if you're going to choose a profession, you want to have some interest in it. So there's a lot of overlap between that. So that could be a case for that. Not necessarily that you need to have that major to get into medical school. You just need to choose something that you're going to excel at and enjoy doing it. And when you're doing your pre-med coursework, you do not want to have tunnel vision and laser focus where you have the blinders on and all you see is, okay, I'm doing this coursework to get into medical school. That's all I'm concerned about because, yes, the college years could be the best years of your life, and you don't want to pursue one chosen field study to the exclusion of everything else that your college or university has to offer. So you need to be broad minded, engage in other courses that you would never take otherwise have the chance to do in your college experience. And that's another reason why I chose political science. I enjoy the politics of it. I remember the presidential inauguration when the Clintons were leaving office and George W. Bush was coming to office. I remember sitting around the TV, watching that, seeing the whole speech, watching the Clintons travel to the Andrews Air Force Base, shake hands, say goodbye to everybody, and then seeing the helicopter or Air Force One leave for the last time as the former commander in chief, first lady, first families leaving as the new presidential family, the Bushes were taking office and all of that, just rapt attention about that. And it goes to show that I knew, okay, medicine's going to be my future. I'm going to have the rest of my life to study and focus on medicine. So let me do something I won't have a chance to do. And so that's why I did the political science. And that's another thing that you guys consider like, what is something I really enjoy? What is something that I like? And what is something that maybe if I didn't do medicine, I would be interested in, or I'm just have this interest, but even though I want to go to medical school, I want to kind of explore this a little bit because I know this might be one of the only chances that I have to do that. Because I'll tell you what, grad school with a master's from Boston University School of Medicine and medical school have not did anything with political science at all. It's just been science, 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 healthcare, medicine, all of that. And so if I didn't have those 4 years to do that major, then I would not have that experience. I won't have that exposure, that knowledge base, and everything like that. So make sure you guys explore and take advantage of all opportunities that you have in college while you're going through this process. And again, to reiterate, there is not a pre-med major. You do not major in pre-med. Instead, you take the courses that are required for admission to medical school. And I'm going to leave a tidbit with that, those courses. I would take biochemistry as well. If you have an opportunity to take that before medical school, do that because a lot of medical schools think that you guys have seen that material. I remember med school, they were just like, oh, you guys seen this, you already know this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. And you don't want to be the person who's like seen it for the first time or lacking behind because you haven't seen it and your classmates have. And so then they're able to dedicate their limited time to studying the harder subjects in medical school, where you have to study everything equally or even more because you haven't seen it before. So that's one thing. And then even look over the requirements for where you want to apply to medical school because I remember I said the last major that people have applying medical school is math and stats. But you have to be aware of what type of courses that you need for medical school because some would say that you need like the advanced math format of like the physics course, like the algebra versus the other type and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're taking the appropriate degree of difficulty and rigor for some of these courses. And You don't want to be in a position where, oh, I want to apply to medical school, but then I don't have the math requirement that they want us to have. So be aware of that. And it's always a good idea to take a stats course because you're going to need that. You're going to see that with a lot of being numbers driven. And as my high school teacher would say, math is the language of science. So make sure you guys got that covered and you know your basis for that. And I'll even tell you when you're taking your licensing exams, there's going to be a whole portion dedicated to statistics and stats. So you want to make sure you can do that. It's not going to be super difficult like your stats course that you would take, but you want to have a solid foundation in that so you can excel on that. So I'm going to give you guys some insights and things to think about down the road as a pre-med student that you're going to come across when you're in medical school, and then even when you're doing your board and probably early when you're doing like research projects, you want to be proficient in some of these things so that you can adequately like hypothesize and do your research methodology and have appropriate results and everything like that. So that's what we have. And so again, the best major for you as a pre-med is one that you enjoy and that you excel at. I gave you a list of the ones that people typically choose when they're applying to medical school and they have a high percentage chance of getting in. Number one is the biological sciences, but you don't need to do that. Followed by other. And so I'm talking a lot on this. You guys know what you need to do. I'm always open to questions. If you guys have questions or concerns about choosing your college major, what's going to be the best major for you as a pre-med student who's applying to medical school. Thank you.